Hello, legends. Boy, have I got a return guest for us. Dr. Tam is back to talk about the state of everything, really, how we are where we are, what people's understanding of it is, what's going on in this country and the bigger picture, and also, on a sort of side note, being a former paratrooper, Tam is going to be telling us about what it was like fighting in the Battle of Goose Green and what lessons there can we learn for perhaps maybe, not sending our youngsters off to war. Let's get into it. Dr. Tam, how are you doing?
I'm fine, thanks. And yourself?
Yes, I'm super, mate. Thank you. It's a funny thing what I said there. When you just say to anybody in this nation, yeah, it's not a good idea, is it, to send our teenagers into a foreign land to go and kill their teenagers, right? Everyone would agree with you, wouldn't they? They'd be like, "Nah, that's this awful war. It's awful." And yet, when the old cabal create the next conflict, everyone's like, "Yeah, let's go to war." And we've both been in combat, so we can have this conversation, can't we?
Yeah, for sure. The really issue is expectations. Circumstances alter faces. Take me for example. In the first talk we had, we explained why we joined the regiment, why we became soldiers, and so on and so on. That's all aspect of our social lives. But when you're looking at what happened in terms of the idea of being a soldier and the reality I ended up in combat are completely divorced. They're like two different ends of a spectrum. So there's all the jingoism, the propaganda. Now, in the Brotherhood of the Regiment, for example, we were warriors. End of story. Bloodlust, thirsting to go somewhere to do it because the investment we've made in each other in terms of our own training, brotherhood, learning, and it's not just going through P Company and passing, and it's not just going through Marine training and passing, it's the life after. And so you end up in a kind of expectation that something's going to happen. And for our generation, there was always Northern Ireland. You going to Northern Ireland if you join the Paras and Marines. End of story. So that was an expectation. So what was it that sent us out there? What happened? Well, you go back into history and you see exact same people, not the people aren't alive, but the same bloodlines, all the way back into there, going in and causing problems. Now, why? What was Northern Ireland about? It was rich in coal. Yeah. Now you understand it. The whole Battle of the Boyne and everything. So the using religion in this one as a dividing rule. Now come up to religion, what people believe, and we know that some people will go to the end of the earth, they'll crawl across broken glass for religion. These people in Tibet, they crawl 5 kilometers, no, 5 kilometers a day or something like that for 50 days on a pilgrimage. I've seen this and I say to myself, that's the power of belief. So again, we come back to beliefs. I believed when I joined the army that I was going to have fun. I understood that I was going to go to Northern Ireland, and I accepted that. And in Northern Ireland, for those of you who know a lot about the history, put that aside. I just want to talk about one particular incident, and it blew me away. I was very much aware it was Catholic Protestant, but I didn't really understand why. Even though I'm from Leith and I was a Hib supporter and we had Hearts and Rangers and Celtic and all this to deal with, Scots, it migrates over there stronger, harder to penetrate. So I'm in Newry. It's a Saturday morning. I'm on the street. It's my first tour. I've been there probably 3 or 4 days. I'm standing in the doorway, and this beautiful, beautiful girls walking along the street. You're talking the green eyes, the dark hair, stunning. And of course, I'm standing there, cherry berry, cam cream, SLR, flak jacket, leaning against the doorway. And if this was back home in Leith, I would have stepped out there and go, whoa, where are you going, darling? Come on, eh? Something to start a conversation. She walked up to me, closed in, spat a greener in my face. In my face. Boom. Then I realized what I was dealing with. All illusions shattered. This was just after Warren Point as well. But all illusions shattered about what we were dealing with. So you end up in a situation where you are there in order to do the will of the British government as a member of their security forces, irrespective of what the people want. And then you find out that the very people that are sending you there are the people behind it manipulating the Irish government in order to have this continuity. So it's a great training area. Imagine that 14, 15 years that the British Army and the British government kept that conflict going in order to train us, in order for arms companies, etc., etc. The amount of money that was spent on that conflict, was it Operation Banner, I think they called it? The amount of money that was spent on that was phenomenal over the years. And what's the result? It's the same as Afghanistan. It's the same as Iraq. Go in, kick up shit, annoy people, hurt them, kill them, destroy their culture, destroy their way of life, and then leave. And then you leave into a vacuum, what happens? They all start fighting, and then our government goes, told you so. That's why we went there, because they're always fighting. No, no, they weren't always fighting, which comes back to the very question you asked me at the beginning before the podcast when we were having a chat. What is going on? Why do people allow this to happen?
Yes. And Tam, another thing is, now that we've seen, I always say, the events in New York and Washington 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I don't say that number because it gets us in trouble on the podcast. But now that you've seen that, and now you've seen when things kind of go boom in, for example, a major English city, and then when you learn the people really behind it, those that, by stealth thou shalt do war,
Mm-hmm.
and all the associated agencies that are all controlled by this darkness, doesn't it make you question who was behind those bombs in Birmingham and
Oh, yes.
and
Oh, yes.
Deal, where they took out the Marine
The
bandsman?
band. Yeah. Yeah.
It puts friends at home. What we're getting at here, I obviously have to be careful what I say because of the platform, some of the platforms we use. But we just believed blindly back then. When something went boom, it was them bad guys that did it, and we would have gone after them without hesitation. What I'm saying now is, now that we know the more about the use of false flags, and now that we found out that the head of the IRA was actually London, it was MI6.
Yeah.
Then it the whole thing is brought into question.
Yeah, Chris, here's a little interjection. I was on one of these courses in emotional intelligence, and there was a guy there, PhD holder, ex-special branch, Dublin for about 8 or 9 years. He was there around about the time of Warren Point. And over lunch, I said to him, so, you were in all this, and I didn't tell him that I'd been there. I just said, why didn't you stop it? The smirk. You understand me? The smirk, and then the lie. But it was that smirk, the giveaway, that he knew about it before it. I had to restrain myself mentally because it wasn't the right circumstances in public in a nice posh restaurant, reaching over the table and smacking this guy hard. Because I realized then what was going on. I knew inside, like I say, these people, the Irish Colleen that spat in my face, she was so wound up by alternative propaganda that she's just as well put a gun to my head and pulled the trigger. That was the intent, so wound up. That shocked me, that the people hated us so much. And I had to start asking the question, why? And then there's the religion, isn't there? There's Protestant Catholic, divide and rule. It's the old Hegelian dialectic again, two sides of the same coin. Here we have this one God, and yet all these Catholics doing this, and all these Protestants doing this, and then now the twain shall meet, because what you do is a clash of ideas, a clash of cultures, a clash of beliefs, and therefore they can't be right, and they can't be right. And where you end up with is this perennial difference in opinion. But wait a minute, I thought it was the same God. Kind, caring, loving, omnipresent, omnipotent God that looks after us all. And yet, this thing reputed to be a man, let's say I pretend it's a man with long hair and a white beard, but sits up in this big golden throne. Well, this guy is his own son, and he created us in order to sin so he could punish us. That sounds like a psycho to me. And yet, here we are. He's got all these people divided and ruled. So, how do I think like this? Where did this come from? Is this years of research? No, it was an epiphany. And, you know, we were talking earlier, and even last time I mentioned it, you wanted to talk a little bit about good screen. So I don't want to talk about Shooty Bang Bang. Leave that to the others, you know. I want to talk about what happened to me. So, again, it's a story, and I like to tell stories in my own way. So, it was a morning. It was the 29th of May, 1982. The sun is just peeping over the horizon, so we've got this beautiful shaft of golden light coming across. And there's a light covering the snow on the ground, and the gorse is burning. I've just finished a cup of tea and a hardtack biscuit, and I'm looking out just over the battlefield, relieved and all that. I've been up all night. I no sleep for something like 36, 37 hours at that point. And then, in a voice, Corporal Thornborrow! Oh no, I recognise it. Tam! Getting familiar. And it's the Padre, the chaplain. I always get confused between Padre and chaplain, but it's a regimental God squad. All right, so I'm his bodyguard. So I go, shit, this can't be good. Now, there was no fighting, there'd been a lull. And this is the morning, so the history books tell you, you know, there's this pregnant pause. This is where Major Keeble had put in his bluff, if you like, that we're going to hammer you and you better surrender. So this is on the cusp. Anyway, I get up, you know, pick up my rifle, pick up my smudge gun that I got off the RJs. We'll start walking towards him, and then he comes up the hill and he says, right, we'll come with me. And we go around to battalion HQ, and sitting on the ground is an Argentinian officer. And he stands up as we enter the area, and I get introduced to him as the padre or the chaplain of the Argentinian garrison in Goose Green. So here we have, I've got our chaplain and their padre. Let's use these words. Yeah? I've got a chaplain and a padre. And their mission, unbeknownst to me, is to go up to the schoolhouse. Now, this is the famous schoolhouse that Mortars and D Company and C Company, slaughtered. So I didn't know this at the time. All I heard was that the Argentinians are surrender, and as part of it, this guy is going to go over there to give his last rites to the dead soldiers. Now, forgive me, at that point, I still thought that last rites were given when someone was alive. I didn't understand the Catholicism that you can do it when they're dead. So off we go. Now, I'm shitting myself because there's no ceasefire. There's 200 or 300 trigger-happy Toms out there, you know? And it's just becoming dawn. We still get the first wisp of dawn. And so we start walking, and mercifully, we're not going into the Goose Green settlement. We're going the other way. We're going into towards the schoolhouse. So that's a relief. I'm heading away from where the RGs are. And as we go up and come up the hill, and we cross this, it's just this little sand dune sort of thing. And there the sun comes up, so it's shining right in our faces. And the Argentinian padre stops, and he starts speaking to us in Spanish. And for some reason, I don't know, our chap, he turns around and starts speaking to him in German, for heaven's sake, I don't know. But the guy responded in German. Now, I've been in Berlin for 2 years, and I guess that's where our chaplain got it from. He only picked up a bit of German. Anyway, guy produces a little piece of paper from his pocket, and it's a map. And he just says the magic word, Meinen. Oh, shit, we're in a minefield. No, we were on the entrance to it. But he had his map through. So we're walking through this minefield. I'm absolutely terrified. You can see them in the ground, the little stalks coming up like umbrellas, you know, without skin on them. They've frozen in. I think about that. They've frozen in. I think it happened to your guys going up on Two Sisters and things. They've frozen in the ground. So anyway, we started getting through that, and we get out the other side, and then facing me, up another little rise facing me is a schoolhouse. One side there's a chimney stack, the other side there's a ball. Roof's completely crashed in, and central beams folded into the middle. There's all this corrugated iron, wriggly tin, desks, bits of metal from the burnt desks and stuff like that, all heaped on the floor, smouldering coming up. Just then, the sun shines through it, and there's a wall. It's like asbestos. This thing is like imagine standing inside a tea bag with pinpoints of sun coming through and the smoke rising. It was like dots all over you, you know, like the laser dots and all that, but all over. And the smoke rising up. And I'm just standing there looking at this. And then the wind changed a little bit towards me, and the smell. That is in here. I don't eat bacon anymore. I can't stand it because of that smell. Very, very similar. Smell of burnt flesh. So the padre goes in, the chaplain goes in, and I walk in. And on the ground, there's all this smouldering. And I'm looking around, and this chaplain, he gets out his rosary, and he gets out his little Bible, and he's going around sprinkling water. And I'm, what the fuck's this guy doing? And then it hit me. So I lifted a bit of corrugated iron up with my foot. It's hot, like, but my boot. I lifted it up, and underneath was a pair of boots. So I lifted it even more, and then all I could see was just ankles, and then nothing else, just charred. And I went around counting boots, and I got to 21. Don't ask me why I didn't get 22. Yeah, there wasn't a one-legged soldier in there, but I got to 21. So that meant there was at least 10 or 11 dead soldiers in there. Now, this was as a result of the assault that D Company and C Company put in on that. And of course, with it going on fire, with the amount of pyrotechnics that hit it, all this roof had all collapsed in them. They were probably dead, but they were incinerated. Fucking cooked head in a helmet staring at me with an iron skull. Cooked, smell it, looking at me. Ah! So he's going around dipping all this, and then this came over me. It's just this absolute rage. Wait a minute. 2 days ago, you were on one hill talking to your soldiers, asking God, and you were asking them for victory, protection, safety, the whole shebang. And you fucker, you're on the other hill doing exactly the same thing. How does God choose? How does he choose who gets hit, who gets killed, who gets away with it? How does he choose? If both of God's representatives on earth are asking the same God for the same thing, how does he choose? And that just blew me away. And that's where I come back and say, the guy must be a psychopath. Because if he's there to protect us and look after us and give us a good life, why the hell does he put us in situations like that? And this goes back tens of thousands of years. So, how did we become like this? And then we can move on to maybe a little bit of the genetic manipulation that went on thousands of years ago. Although a lot of people don't accept it and don't believe it, it's pretty clear and pretty obvious to me. Well, the basal ganglia, all of a sudden, without evolution, it jumps. That we got another layer of thinking that takes us away from the primates, the great apes, where we can reason, rationalize in different ways. We can perceive different ways than the apes can. Sure, they can communicate. They've got all the social aspects. You watch chimpanzees, you say, fuck, that's like humans, except we have this extra layer. But they found out that the basal ganglia, if you like, it was altered in some way. It wasn't evolution, it was a jump. And that's what gave us this ability to reason. It's got nothing to do with running over the savannah with spears and getting a bigger brain because we got to hunt prey. So if you can accept that, then that comes back to the question, how does God choose? Maybe, just maybe, there's not a God. Oh, shit, man. That's going to do a lot of people. But it makes sense to me, you see, because I can pick up a stone, Chris, and that stone is made of molecules and atoms, and it's solid, yeah? And I look at me, and I'm made of molecules and atoms. But the difference between me and that stone is we're made from the same earth. We're all made from pure sunshine. That's inanimate, and I am. What's the difference? I'm thinking that's not. But that chimpanzees think. What's the difference? Again, it's my ability to reason. So I can look at this stone and say, this is part of the universe, and so am I. What differences me is I'm thinking what caused and created that thinking. So if I can move my body around and the stone can't, there must be something that does that. And that's what we call life. So where does that life come from? Where does that spark come from? Well, the evolutionists will say, oh, it's primeval soup or somewhere. It's a big universe, mate. Must have happened somewhere, all infinity and all that. Fine. But what if it was deliberate genetic manipulation of a species that was already here in order to create a race for some reason? Now, there's some theories that say the people came here to mine gold and set up civilizations, and this is how we became different from chimpanzees and so on, and we evolved. But basically, what we brought with us is this warlike, this, how do you say, aggression against each other. Now, we look at it and say, oh, evolution, you know, as a father, you talk about your little legend, you'd got the end of the earth to protect them, wouldn't you? So would every father, so would every mother. And so when you've got one community living and they've got their resources and another community runs out of resources and they want your resources, what happens? They can either come and negotiate or they can come and take. Unfortunately, human nature is we come and take. So now, jumping way ahead, we've got a great negotiator now who's a president. He's not a politician. He's not from that ilk. He's a negotiator. And so he's now negotiating on different terms that people have never heard before, and it's fucking their heads up. Because he's not coming from the traditional perspective. He's not coming from the traditional political paradigm, which is, and remember I said this before,
Yeah, it's a fascinating one, Tam, that, because my friend John St. Julian on his channel, he calls it the alien slave technology that
yeah,
we have somehow, and I don't know if this is like metaphysical, literal, biological, whatever, but somehow it's been implanted or programmed into us. Because when I was speaking at the Thetford Freedom Festival the other day, and I was trying to explain to people life, and I said in a very quick synopsis, God's up there, he's bored, he hasn't invented his Xbox yet, so he's literally got nothing to do, and he thinks, do you know what? I'm gonna create this experiment called life. I'm gonna take a rib from Adam, which is allegory for taking an electron from an atom, which creates, chain reaction of energy. And this experiment's going to grow, and then out of this life, sentient life is going to form. That's me and you, and thinking animals. And here's the kicker: is that life ever going to get intelligent enough to realize it is me? It is a holographic representation of the big man, of the big picture, the everything. Or is it going to, excuse my French, fuck it all up and get all into identity and ego and power struggle and nationalism, and you stay there and I'm here and I've got all the gold and you haven't, and I'm going to take your oil and did it, and as such destroy itself through mechanisms like industrialization, which is just polluting the planet, and wipe itself out, another fall of Rome, so to speak, and then, just like we go again, so to speak, and life goes again. And does that, the next time, does the intelligence get enough to realize that we are God? And clearly we're a long way away from that at the moment, because no matter who's leading us, none of them would ever have this level conversation, certainly not on a public sphere. And is it, Tam, that we can we explore the possibility? Have we been interfered with? Are we a slave race? Was there some masters that came down and thought, right, I'm going to take that gene out of these monkey men so that they all become a bit, easily controlled by their primal desires? Or is it just that our brains have got too clever? We can now go and get a month's worth of food in literally 5 minutes in the supermarket. We can farm grain, which is totally unnatural. we're poisoning ourselves, so we lose the spiritual connection. We've come so far from God because we've gone down the material route, and we believe that buying things makes us happy.
Interesting point there, Chris. I'm going to intervene because you come to the paradox, and it's an absolute cracker. You end up in a situation where, as science unfolds and knowledge, exactly what you were saying, we become more and more intelligent, well, more and more knowledgeable. Intelligence is a basic. We end up in a situation where we question God. To go back 100 years, you couldn't. In my childhood, you couldn't. Priest knocking on the door and say, sorry, the minister knocking on the door, asking my mother why she wasn't at church, and she points at 5 of us and goes, "I got 5 of them on a Sunday morning," and slams the door. He's only after her money anyway. But the point is, it becomes a paradox, because the less we need God, because, if you like, science and technology is explaining more and more and more about us as compared to our ancestors who didn't know much. The paradox is, the less we believe in God, the more we need him. Look at what's happening to the world right now. And I think that you can safely say that there is one demographic that is very strong and rising, while the other that was established is melting away and folding away. And as you know, in playground behavior, when you get one gang replacing another gang, the gang that gets replaced, they all dissolve, and eventually they have to join the new gang. And this is where we are. We're entering in a class of civilization that's not driven by God. It's driven by people who believe they are God. And this is the absolute power. Power corrupts absolutely. It's the logical conclusion of it. So we're in a situation where we have an elite cabal of people, for right or wrong. They've got their own beliefs, their own values, their own reason for doing it. They're exercising great wealth. And they're changing society in ways that they want, that will benefit them. Wait a minute. That's what chieftains used to do thousands of years ago, or tens of thousands of years ago in their communities. So the exact same behavior occurs. This is where you can come to the idea of what you said, programming. What changes? Circumstances alter faces. Technology brings in more opportunities for us to be otherwise occupied. People, when I was a kid, they come in, the shipyard would empty, they'd all go to the pub on a Friday, spend half their wages, go home, beat their wives or whatever, and then the Monday morning they're back at work. And that was it. That was their life. Never question, never argue. Me, I'm not fucking going in a shipyard. I ended up in a factory. 18 months I was out. Couldn't. No, I'm not staying in here. I'm not giving my life to this. So I was already questioning. I got in trouble at school for it. Oh, there's one absolute beauty. I was about 10 years old. We had to go to this ceremony, Easter church service, whole school. And I'm sitting there, and there's a minister, and if you commit, you will sin, you will be struck down by God, and all this. And I'm sitting there, and wait a minute, put my hand up. This is school. You don't do that. Put my hand up. And of course, he couldn't ignore it. Because my school teacher went, whoosh, like that at me. No, I got my hand up. I got a question. Excuse me. You said if we sin, God will punish us. Yes. Well, why do we have prisons? The guy melted in front of me. I got kicked out and I had to stand outside the headmaster's office while they called my father. That was 10 years old. That's what I did. I challenged it all. So even then, I was having my doubts. Once upon a time, forgive me, I ran along the street and I stole an apple. I stole an apple deliberately, and I stood there and I held it in my hand and I said, I have committed a crime. I have sinned. Strike me down dead. And then ate it. You get me? This is 9, 10-year-old that I was questioning. Fuck knows how I ended up in the army. But my point is, I think that there are people that have come into this earth at certain times in order for them to be in places to do things. Now, I'm not talking about guys like Tony Blair or Trump or Adolf Hitler or anybody of these people. I'm talking about everyday people. And if you look around you, Chris, you will see that everywhere you turn, there are saints and angels willing to help, want to help. But the narrative is don't, because you'll get into trouble. The propaganda is, man mind thyself, don't help other people. The government is here to look after you. And that's what leads back to the Hegelian dialectic. The government looks after us. Political parties don't. They do the government's bidding. So whether it's Labour, Conservative, it's two sides of the same coin. They start to use the word uniparty. I knew this years and years and years ago because, again, studying Hegel. Yeah? Divide and rule. Simple. You look where look how he built his empire. You go into a country, say Afghanistan 200 years ago. What do you do? One tribal warrior, give him the money. Another tribal warrior, give him the money, and then set them against each other. Then they start fighting, and you sell their arms to them, you sell their arms to them. Oh, the cash is coming in. So 400 or 500 years of that, and, from the Tudors and so on, and all the wars in Agincourt and all this, 400 or 500 years of that, people have got a very sound idea. But where did we get that idea from? That's right, the Romans. Of course, the Romans would do that. Where did the Romans get that idea from? Greeks. Yeah, they got it from the Greeks. Where did the Greeks get it from? Oh, dear me, the Persians. Where did the Persians get it from? They were way back into antiquity to the Brahmin in India. Divide and rule. All these thousands and thousands of years, we, people, have this ability to rise above beyond it, but we're kept down. And this is the darkness that you're talking about. It's been allowed to thrive because like attracts like. And of course, we have this natural greed in us. Now, it's inherent. Hunter-gatherers, right? You and I were walking through the forest. Wow, apple tree. Oh, happy birthday. Me and you've got food. We eat as much as we can because we're moving on. But at that moment, we've got all that food. So what do? We gather it, don't we? And we keep it. And then we can use it to trade with. I'll give you a couple of apples if you go and get me a cup of water down at the stream. So this kind of thing is we are programmed to gather, to collect, to hoard. Substitute money for fruit, for grain, for food. And what have you got? The same psychological processes running in your mind, but at the same time, it's elevated into another system, which is your finance, and which is the social glue that holds everybody together. It's exactly the same principle, but it's just evolved and evolved and evolved. And now we've got all these complicated mathematics where everybody can work out all these complex equations, and we say, we can go there in space, we can go and do all this. But Chris, here's the fundamental issue. A lot of people don't get this. Numbers don't exist in nature. Think about it. Put a 1 in my hand. Put a 1 in my hand. Not 1 in something, put a 1. You can't. It doesn't exist. These are abstract notions, but without these numbers, we couldn't be organized. And without being organized, we could never have moved out of the village, and we could never have built towns, as you said earlier, before we started this. The ability to measure, the ability to artifact, that comes from up here. So where did that idea come from? That's built on the knowledge of what comes before. You take someone from 5,000 years ago and put them in a modern street, they just totally freak out. They just blow their mind because of the amount of change. And yet, they still fart, they still snore, they still argue, they still have friends, they still have their routines, their highways in their minds. Nothing's changed as a human being except circumstances. So here we are, we're in this situation where we've been flooded with all of this artificial intelligence, and internet is good. I have 2 points on that one. Artificial intelligence is not real. I've got flowers on my windowsill. They're artificial, but they're real at the same time. There's a paradox. They actually exist in the real world, but they're not real flowers. So it's the same with artificial intelligence. It is not real, but people treat it as real. But this is just the sum total of our progress so far in terms of using this abstraction in numbers. Numbers don't matter to a duck. She'll get up in the morning. I've only got 4 chicks this morning, 4 ducklings this morning. I had 6 yesterday. No, she'll just carry on because that's her program. Something came in us and altered the program. I'm convinced. This just doesn't make any sense other way. And of course, now we're getting all these archaeological discoveries. LIDAR is showing that there were civilizations that were here before. It's blowing science apart. Guys like this Zahawi or something like that, the Egyptologist, he's trapped in the paradigm of science. And this is where we are. It's the same paradigm that they're trapped in. looking back at history, creating a narrative, feeding it to us, and then evidence comes out that contradicts that narrative, and they double down. This is where we are with politics. This is where we are with science. So back to artificial intelligence. The second point I want to make about that is there's going to come a point where it can't do any more. It's already failing. In some tests, up to 90% failure rate trying to replicate even basic office jobs. Here we are again. Remember the millennial bug? Huh? Remember the dot-com revolution? Remember the smartphone revolution? Here we are again, AI revolution. These big companies, sucking up our investments. What's that sound I hear? That's money being sucked out your pockets for the next big investment that's going to flop. However, the point is, people are relying on it too much, and politicians now are making judgments using pure AI. As I said, I've got artificial flowers on my windowsill and they're real and not real at the same time. So my issue here is it's invading and it's becoming permeable in everything that we do. You just literally cannot make a phone call and get in touch with a council. Even small companies now, I've got my own AI. Hi, talk to us. We can solve your problems. Can they fuck? All they do is just mess around with your head all the time in order to keep your attention, because attention means electricity. Electricity being used means being able to mine it and create Bitcoin. That's a good one, isn't it? So the more electricity, the more Bitcoin you have, the more electricity you need. That's why our electric cars got taken away, using too much electricity. Any idea how much it takes for just one picture on AI? Just one snapshot. As much as it takes to charge your whole phone. How much power? How many billion of them have been made today? So this is why you see the new mood is like preparing for artificial intelligence, because it draws a lot of energy, a lot of electricity. And so in order to do that, we can't afford the electricity prices. That's why in here in this country, in the UK, it costs so much. Because they need the money for the investment. They need to use the electricity they do to run the banks, to run their social services, to run the councils and so on. And it's sucking more and more electricity out of us. So in order to stop us using as much, they put the tariff up so we don't buy as much. We turn the heating down. We don't have that extra cup of tea with 5 minutes in the shower instead of 20, whatever. It's all to save electricity. Why? Because AI needs it to run. Computers need it to run. Now, that's all fine if you want that life. I don't. I really don't. So I'm one of these people who looks around and yes, I use it and I understand it, but I'm not letting it dominate my life, Chris. Not like I say the younger generation. And mark my words, AI is becoming so pervasive. It's now around about 80-20 rule. If anybody has ever studied Pareto, the Pareto analysis, 80% of the traffic now, roughly, on the internet is bots. And you've got bots talking to bots. So all this AI generated images, paintings, music, students doing their essays and all that, fine. It's all going to go away. Purely and simply because it's going to come to a point where people are going to turn around and say, especially the younger generation, it's not cool to have a smartphone. And when that happens, boom, we're free. Because the whole system will collapse because it's so dependent on people buying in and using it. Now, I can't get money out of my bank because I don't have access to it. So I go on the internet to get access and I can't get it because I don't have the app. But I didn't ask to use an app. It was given to me and I don't use it because I don't know how to use it. I'm a technophobe. But the point is, aside from me being able to use it or not, it's just taking somebody else's role and somebody else's job away. So now we have, if you like, artificial intelligence and these software programs pre-guessing what we're going to do. And so we come back and remember what we said last time about the pandemic with all the banging the pots and the pans. Social programming, in groups and out groups. If you're not doing it, you're in the out group and you're not with us. So if you know all of that and you understand all of that, it's easy to herd people into silos, into, if you like, internet silos. So you've got all these different ones. Some people like X, some people like Reddit, some people like Facebook, da 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 da. Well, fair enough. When you get to a point, as I said, the paradox, you spend so much time on that, you're losing out on your real life, and therefore you end up in a science-controlled Hegelian dialectic community. And there we are. That's what politics is all about. We change we change parties because it makes us feel good, but we don't change direction. The direction is constant. You can go back in history and you'll see it, a line all the way through. It's constant. And it all revolves about what you started with. This preparing us to be slaves. Now, slaves in the fact, I don't know, they talk about years ago it was to dig gold for some race, off planet race or something like that. Well, okay, so yeah, gold is valuable. Why is gold valuable? Maybe it's got something to do with that. But the point is, it becomes a commodity, and those that own it, just like us in the forest with our apples, yeah, we have got the commodity, so we can use it in order to create a better world for us. But that always comes at the expense of other people. So yeah, we're now in a situation where dividing. And what if you've read Aldous Huxley's Brave New World? In fact, if you've seen the Hunger Game films, that's basically what it is. We're heading for a society where people are going to be living in their electronic cities with all the gizmos and gadgets and drones and flying cars and all the rest of it. And they'll be living in there using all this technology and AI and having personal AI assistants and getting their ass wiped by a robot in the morning, yeah? Well, the rest of us are going to be out there enjoying life, really enjoying life, enjoying community, doing the kind of things that you do, running, swimming, being out, doing sport, enjoying yourself. And guess what? You don't need that little smartphone for it. And so, therefore, we're moving into a world where it's dividing into two, those that are using the technology and those that are victims. And those that are victims far outweigh those that are using the technology. And the ones that are using it are terrified of us. Because if we switched off, they've got nothing. They've got no resources coming in. So this whole push for personalizing AI is going to be a bubble. It's going to burst. And we're going to end up with two different types of society. One that lives in an electronic world where it's all controlled, and us, the rest of us, living in the real world with real people doing real things. Stick to your electronic matrix. I'll have my biological matrix. That's what I want.
Interesting, isn't it? If that would that ever happen, would people shun? Would the wannabe controllers, would they let the system split? Would people be then in one system and going, do you know what? This is a bit crap. I wish I was back in that one again.
They've got no choice, Chris. I mentioned earlier that if we go out in space and we look at what's happening in there, very few people realize that our sun revolves around the central sun, which revolves around the galactic sun. So we've got a moon goes around us, we go around the sun goes around another sun. Let's just stop there. So it takes 26,000 years for the sun to do one orbit, our sun to do one orbit. Meanwhile, we're doing our orbits, aren't we? So if you think of it, there's a line in the galactic plane. One side is light photons, high energy. The other one is low energy. It's like going from sunlight into shadow. We've been in shadow for 13,000 years. We're now moving into the light, the dawning of the age of Aquarius and all the rest of the stuff, all the hippies and all that. They were tuning into something. So you move around and you're coming into the light. That means that the photons that are coming in. Now, we did say we were made of molecules. Oh, that's right. Of course, yeah. And these molecules, they have made up DNA, and the DNA responds to this light. So the photons are affecting our DNA. So what we're having is a lift. Now, some people will call it an ascension. Oh, man, there's all these crazies out there. Oh, I am one of these people, I'm talking to the Ashtar civilization of the Galactic Federation. Oh, go fuck off. You're going to expose when the real aliens turn up. But the point is, something in that is true. Something in it is very true, because as we move away from the darkness and into this new photon of light, we become more receptive. And because we become more receptive, our vibration peaks a little bit more. We become more elevated. And so, therefore, the things that were in the past become clearer, and we're starting to see the dark for what it is. So now what you've got is a fight. I don't like good against evil. I'll just say light against dark. And what we're seeing is that the dark has realized that the game is up and it's now in its last throes. And of course, a cornered animal is dangerous. And I'm sitting watching and waiting. I'm terrified that there's going to be a huge false flag somewhere in order to try and reset anything. But you can't put you can't put the tooth back in the tube. You can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. It's over. There are far too many people. You and I are sitting having this conversation that 5 years ago, if you'd have started on me or I started on you, you'd have, fuck, this guy's off his head. Not now. Not now. Well, I resonate with so many people. Okay, I'm lucky because I can use the language. You know, I'm a trained psychologist. I know how to use language. I know how to talk to people. I can pick up where they're coming from and go on to their level, whether someone wants to talk about logic and science or somebody wants to talk about love and poetry. Oh, anywhere, I'll go along. Yeah, because it's communication and that's my expertise. The problem is, having that knowledge, you start to see it being reflected back at you. And so I can look at something and within 2 or 3 minutes and listen to a podcast or a blog, I know where they're coming from. I know where the conclusion is going to go. Because it's all about, like what we're doing, yeah? It's all about hits. It's all about hits. Hits equals revenue, and so on and so on and so on. But, Chris, take a compliment, my friend. You're different. You've gone beyond. It's never about money. You get me? That's why I said, and what we want to talk, what I'd like to talk about is talk about your journey. You said to me last time, you made this journey, and one person listened to you. Fuck it. Drop a little line every now and again to people like me. Talk about what it was like. Explain it. Because as you shine your light, as we're coming out the darkness, it needs people like you to stand up and say, here I am, listen. I might not be right, but I can point in the right direction. I don't know which peak to go to, but I can show you the mountain range that way. And this is what I see in you, and I see it so much more in so many more people who are starting to give up on the technical life, if you like, the corporate life, the earning a salary. Pandemic did for a lot of people. They realized, wait a fucking minute, what am I doing? What am I doing? And of course, we got all the fallout from that. But that's a great opening. More people have become aware of it. The intention was to lock us down, the dark, lock us down, keep us trapped, keep us in the paradigm. And of course, it's got the completely opposite effect. People saw it for what it is. All they needed was a trigger. All they needed was someone like yourself or David Icke or whatever, these crazy people, whether they're right or wrong, just to mention it. It's okay to think outside the paradigm. It's okay to think about an alternative. It's okay to think outside Christianity. It's okay to think outside religion. Because what has it brought us? War, pestilence, disease, poverty. And yet, at the same time, we're still evolving.
Yeah, we was blind back then as a a commonality, as a generalization, because immediately from David Icke we should have been able to see this is a guy who's coming from a place of love. It's that fucking simple. Doesn't matter what he's saying, he's coming from a place of love. And the people that are laughing at him through their the mouthpiece of the BBC, i.e. the cabal, are trying to shut this guy down and trying to publicly humiliate him. And that, I would like to think, Tam, that more people are aware of this. But then I'm just going to flag an image up on the screen to show people.
Well, while you're doing that, I feel guilty in a little way as I'm responsible for some of David Icke's journey. Years and years and years ago, when I was in the Green Party, I was running a company called EcoTrade, their trading arm. And David Icke was wanting to join the Green movement, and I got talking to him, and he came to see me. And I was very surprised because even all I knew was he was a sports presenter and a goalkeeper. Very surprised at his openness. So we're sitting on the conversation in my house because he stayed with me for a couple of days. He was doing radio interviews in the East Midlands. We were talking. I just brought a book down my shelf and said, "Go away and read that, my friend. That will give you all the answers." I'm actually in his book because he remembers that. So, in the beginning of his journey, when he was deeply seeking questions, something happened to him again. You know, that moment, that epiphany, that light, that reframe. And of course, he's looking for answers. Now, was I instrumental in that? Was that meant to happen? Like, was it like at the schoolhouse? Was I meant to be there to experience that? And then a few years later, I see him in the tracksuit on Wogan being ripped to shreds, and oh, David, no, 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 But I understand his enthusiasm, I understand his exuberance. You realize something, you have an epiphany. Whoa, I've got to tell the world. And then, of course, the world doesn't want to listen, and those on the dark side with a vested interest want to shut you down because they don't want you knowing that there's an alternative way. And of course, this is where we are, as we're talking about. We're at the cusp. We are moving through space into a different photon belt, and this is what people are talking about when they talk about the alignment, if you like, the new the new humanity that's coming, peace, love, and harmony. No, we're still fucking warlike. We're still going to kill each other, but at least it'll be better than it was before if we can get all these evil people out of our government and get real, honest, genuine people in there, people who care. People who've been brought up to respect each other, to respect community, not to exploit, not to rip off, not to dominate, not to use power for their own ends. And so if you can understand moving from the dark into the light, you start to see it is actually physically happening with our position in space, and it's physically happening to us, although we can't see it in the terms of the photon, increasing our vibration. So inevitably, it's got to come to a point where we working on this side and trying to help people become the majority, become the dominant way, and all these people will fade away through generations. We'll still have them, but they'll fade away, they'll have no power, and the world will become a better place. Unfortunately, as I'm sitting here with this magic dream, I'm absolutely terrified that someone's going to drop a nuke somewhere to screw it all up because these people are starting to get desperate. It's not just their money and their wealth, it's their secret life.
I don't think they exist, mate.
Yeah,
And I'm
that's
not
what I'm
trying.
about.
I'm not trying to be, Charlie conspiracy theorist here. I. When you look back at that film, was it called Threads? It came around in the 70s, and we all had to watch it as kids, and it was set in some kind of simplistic northern, mining town scenario, for example. And it were like, oh, Madge, they've got the 3-minute warning, and we've all got to get under table and to protect ourselves from fallout. And I watched that the other day, and fuck me, when you've been through the AIDS, HIV bullshit programming, because that's a whole nother, gotta be careful what I say here, but that's a whole nother operation again. Then you just see the same gaslighting, the same indoctrination techniques. And like I say, I'm not trying to be a dickhead, Tam. I'm just saying, can we actually get something into a warhead that triggers such a chain reaction that it causes this massive catastrophe? Or are we all being a little bit gaslit because those big rockets that you see being trundled out for Russian military ceremonies or Chinese parades, they look fucking inflatable, right?
Right. So here you go.
And I've been. Can I just say I've been to Hiroshima. I've been there. It's the same thing when you go to Auschwitz. You do get a bit taken in, and I use that word appropriately, a bit taken in by it all. And it's not until you can step back and listen to other voices that you start to think, hang on a sec, some of these narratives that we've always been sold were like, and they were like our bread and butter of life. We spout these narratives with the word Nazi has just become, I said it the other day, and I always promised I'd never say it again, because they never were called Nazi. They were the National Socialist Party, which is something to be proud of. That's what we want. That's what all these quote unquote gammons that are following Tommy Robinson and marching in London, that's what they want, National Socialism. They might not know that's what it's called, but they want, there's a hole in the street outside. You don't just wait for the council to come and fix it. You and your neighbours, you pick up a spade and you go and fucking fix it, get off your fat ass and fix it first, right? So when you see the gaslighting that's been on, and it's all by the same cabal, the merchants, then you think, hang on, they've got us on one ear, mate, with this. And I wouldn't put me life on this, Tam. I'm not saying definitely nukes don't exist. My job used to be to protect them. I work high security. I was in a high security detachment, but
I used to sit and watch these May Day parades in Moscow as a young kid. Same thing as you, hiding under your desk at school when the bell goes in case there's a nuclear. And my question to my dad was, hey, Dad, if they're all full of nuclear weapons, why doesn't someone just drop a nuclear weapon on top of them and you'll get 10 times the explosion? And my dad just looked at me and smiled. He could tell I was starting to think. Yeah. And from what, 11, 12 years old, I'd already sussed it. Yeah. Yes, there is nuclear weapons out there, but remember they told us about 10,000 years in Chernobyl and all the rest of it. There's counter evidence that see, Nagasaki and Hiroshima were built of wood, and it may be that they were firebombed. It may be.
exactly.
I mean, there's just so much shit out there, you don't know what to believe. But, when somebody does a bit of revisionist history, I always look at it because somebody spent time and effort. Now, first thing I want to do, are you crazy? Or have you got a legitimate message? So I'll always pick up something. And again, this is why I learn so much stuff, is because I'm willing to explore. I'm willing to listen to people. But like I said, 2 or 3 minutes listening to a politician, I can't do it anymore. I'm just hearing the same words. Yeah. It's like, look at politicians. This is your politician. It's a hand. Yeah. This is the real thing behind it. And you just slip on the puppet. George Bush, George W. Bush, Clinton, Obama. Yeah, I'm not too sure about the orange man, bad, but he seems to be okay. But there again, this could be a complete false flag. It could be the ultimate, they warn us about the Antichrist.
He's
Who
perfectly
knows?
okay if you're an Israeli psychopath. He's exactly the man that you want doing
But
the job.
yeah, all Israelis are not psychopaths, and not all psychopaths are Israelis. Yeah, you have to look at the beliefs. These people genuinely believe that in what they're doing,
Can I just say
and
that was a reference to Netanyahu, folks? I wasn't slagging off every single Israeli.
yeah, yeah. I remember standing on a train, and this is relevant. I remember standing on a train in Potsdam in East Germany on train guard and watching these East German soldiers on the line guarding the train. They were standing on the line so we couldn't get off and all that. And I was looking in the eyes of one guy about 10 feet away from me, and it just occurred to me, he's just like me. He's got a town, he lives in a village, he lives in a street. Well, he went to school, he's got brothers, sisters, mother, fathers, and all that. Just normal, everyday people. What the fuck's he doing there? Same as me. I've signed up. I've been enlisted. But the point is, I realised then that the world was full of billions of people that just getting on with life, and it's these politicians and these elites. And again, circumstances alter faces. Back to hunter gathering. People can't stop. When's enough enough? Is it £100,000, 200,000, 500, a million, 10 million? See, it gets to a point where the money doesn't matter anymore. So what else is going on? Here we come to the other side of the equation: power, pure power, domination. And again, you start looking at all the literature, that's been written about sociopaths and psychopaths and all that. That's where they get their information from. Watching people's behavior like that, listening to the stuff that they're saying, and being able to match their actions to their words. And so we've reached this point, as I said, light versus dark, that people have stopped listening to the deep, dark message. They're suspicious. And you talk about a false flag, possible nuclear one. I'm terrified of it happening, but I honestly believe inside myself it won't happen for two reasons. One is you've highlighted. I don't think that they are around to the degree that they are, and certainly there's not this 10,000 years of waste that's going to come after it. People in Nagasaki, Hiroshima, they got the drums. What about Christmas Island and the Marianas and all that? They got bombs dropped on them. Marshall Islands, yeah, they're inhabitable. So yeah, it's all
Yeah,
bullshit, man.
and Chernobyl, those people that never moved out, they said, no, we live here, we're not going
Yeah.
anywhere.
I'm still waiting. I'm still waiting on the three-headed cows and the four-legged chickens. I'm still waiting on all that. No, yeah. But again, it goes to childhood. Now I'm in my 60s. I remember getting under the desk at school, as you said. That was bizarre. Even as a child, I'm questioning it. Excuse me, miss. What are we doing this for? Shut up and do it. That's all you ever got. Shut up and do it. So yeah, funny. I ended up in the army, innit? My point is, Chris. Propaganda is so pervasive that now you don't know what to believe. even on the internet. And of course, the dead internet theory now, 80% of traffic is bots. You don't know what to believe. And I'm, no disrespect, my friend, but you're going down a route that's absolutely perfect for me because you're creating content that helps other people's lives. I don't want to sit and watch a video of somebody falling off a building or some bear getting whacked in the nuts by a piece of wire. It's all trivia. I'm not learning anything from it. But when I talk to people like you and I listen to people like you, I feel, yes, that's a benefit. Where the rest of it is just background noise. And unfortunately, the background noise is so loud now, you need a targeted microphone to zoom in on what you want to listen to. And again, it's AI algorithms. Here's an experiment for your viewers. It's a very good one. Go on to YouTube and then just go on, type something ridiculous in and have a look at a couple of these videos. And I guarantee you, within hours and in the following days, you're going to get lots of suggestions coming up on your feed. Because AI is now working out how we live. We're going into the supermarkets now. Asda, for heaven's sake, walk in there. That's your picture taken. Oh, by the way, they tell you, but that's after you've had it taken. This store operates facial recognition cameras. We're now in a situation where, oh, right, we got your face, or we know you're Dr. Thornborrow. We know what your salary is. We know what you buy. Okay, so when you get to the till, you've got all this. I might be paying 10% more than the guy next to me because he's on the dole. Yeah, he's on social credit. And I'm a rich person, so I'm paying more. Exactly the same goods. This is what technology is doing. It's getting to a point where people are just going to switch off. It really, really, and I see it everywhere around about me. It's destroying the central fabric of what it means to be a human being, at least as I understand it. And again, I'm optimistic because I see with my own eyes and I feel this vibration that's coming. People are feeling it. They're feeling all out of sorts. The way the past is not the same anymore. There's something different about it. And many people just can't figure it out. Yeah. But it'll happen. Give it time. So again, my light warrior, carry on. Do what you're doing. Help people to wake up. You got a wonderful platform to do it, Chris. Please use it to the best of your ability. It's beyond now than bought the t-shirt. It's now about helping people to make that change, to reframe their lives to say, hey, it's not all about material. The more material I become, the less spiritual I become. The more material I become, the less social I become. Until we end up with like these kids, they can't even talk to each other. They won't make a phone call. I was blown away 5 years ago by this Australian psychologist. She was making a fortune teaching 10 to 12-year-olds to use a fucking phone to phone their mothers. They couldn't do it. And this is where we are with this younger generation. It's all attention span's gone to fuck. Why? Because it's addictive, and the people that built it knew it was addictive. Now imagine people that built it, knowing it was addictive, didn't do that. They wouldn't be in business. So again, they come back to this equation. Hunter-gatherers, greed, more, 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 more. And unfortunately, we have to grow out of that. We have to have some new moral lessons. We have to be shown a different way. And this generation's fucked. The young one, the Gen X is fucked. I'd say even Gen Y's fucked. But Gen Z, I think they're going to be the ones that are going to be the new population of this earth, and their values are going to be so different because these are the ones that are starting to get ready to ditch the smartphones. These are the ones that have looked around and seen, wait a minute, I've got no life. And of course, we've all got all this split down into all the different silos. You go on to Reddit, it's a community, it's everybody's talking the same kind of stuff, and then you go over somewhere else, and they're all talking something different. And there's very, very little crossover because, yeah, you're in this camp and that camp, in groups and out groups. What it needs is all of this to be taken down, and not taken down as in you can't use it anymore, but a lot of it scrapped, and just leave us what we were. I know it was harsh with the Chinese, and they turned around and said, no internet for kids between 6 o'clock and 6 o'clock or something like that. And then when they can go on, it's only websites they can go on are educational. You realize in 10, 15 years, these kids are going to be so far, we've already seen it, so far ahead of us because they're spending their time learning, not spending their time TikToking, trivia. entertainment, pass the day, let it go past. Yeah, your whole life concentrated on a 4x2 or 3x4 screen. That's it, your life. Monging down the street. Fucking bruh. I'm sorry,
Hey, it's
I don't
brilliant.
know. I don't know what to say, man.
All you got to
Something,
say
something's got to
is,
give.
all you got to say is, when God bloody swaps the BMX, the BMX craze for TikTok, you fucking know something's wrong with with the
Yeah.
destination where it's that simple. Sorry, I shouldn't use the word God, but you know, when when kids are being sold on TikTok instead of getting out and building dens, you know something's not. You know
I've
it
got
ain't going
this.
to end well.
Yeah, I've got this from my grandsons. The fight. Yeah, they can't wait to get home so that they can get their Xbox and their games out. They can't wait. But when I've got them out, oh, I'm sorry, I teach them to build shelters, build fires and all that. They've not burnt anything down yet. We're all right. Well, I teach them to build shelters and little survival tricks and all that. Fascinates them. Oh, granddad's coming. Boom, let's go. Want to go to the woods. Whereas 2 or 3 years ago, I couldn't get them out of the house until I built a fire, until I let them play with the fire, until one of them got his fingers burned, and it became very, very real. And of course, now they're asking me all kinds of questions about nature, about that. They're starting to explore. One of them has started to settle down, and he's starting to bird watch. Yeah, amazing. So every time I get my grandsons away from their electronic devices, they see a whole different world and they enjoy it. And again, you know, they're trapped in it. They go to school. It's all being taught by machine, etc. Every time they go home, their social life, their friends, da 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 da. But when they put it aside, they're actually living, and that for me is the best part of it. I see that, and that's why I say at some point in the future, kids are going to throw their smartphones away. Well, not throw them away, but they're just going to dump on social media and use them for what they should be: communication, like we're doing. Have a chat with your friends, maybe do a blog and stuff like that. But get away from the whole TikTok trash. Look at me, I need hits. My life's got to be validated, and then nobody's validating me, so I go and talk myself. This gets to me, kids going killing themselves over a text. Ah, man, that's how can a human being so get into such a mental vacuum that's their out?
Because
Yeah,
they're so I'm not so much talking about the kids. That's just they're so young and impressionable. But you look at the deaths in the veterans community.
yeah,
No one has ever sat these lads down and explained, listen, you've been in the military, you probably joined up because you're pretty damaged. We all had shit childhoods, and what you're doing is, as a result, you're taking every knock that life throws at you as a personal attack on yourself. And it's not. It's just fucking bullshit called life. There's knobheads out there. There's good people. You're going to get this. But until you make the connection with something bigger, that you're divine, you ain't got time. I can't worry about every single, indiscretion that goes on in this life because I'm a manifestation of the divine. So if you're a manifestation of God, you'd have to worry about like every single thing that ever happens on the planet. You can't do that. It's just a waste of a day. Sat there going, right, I've got to worry about the ozone. Right, now I've got to worry about the whales. Oh, I've got to worry about the bloody scandal on the BBC. Oh, does Jimmy Savile now then. Oh, right, bloody. It's mental. But this is what is happening. People's brains are absolutely overrun with thinking and thinking dross. And until you can go, till you shut them eyes and that pineal gland kicks in because it's photosensitive, you're not going to get it, and you are going to struggle, and we're going to keep losing blokes and girls, but it's predominantly blokes that seem to commit suicide. And why is that? Why is it not girls so much? Well, I would say because they're more in touch with the feminine energy.
nurture,
Nurtured.
nurture.
You
Yeah,
know, blokes didn't get the love of the father. That's just.
Listen, mate, it's so simple. We stick it in, pull it out, and we can walk away, and she's stuck with it for life. Yeah. So nature, the nurturing part, that's why you'll find a lot more women in that kind of situation than you will men, because men, yeah, they've got nothing to live for. We cannot fulfill ourselves in the same way that a woman can, because we cannot give birth. So therefore, a woman should be sacred. It always just troubled me about the Arabs. I'm not talking about Muslims. I'm talking about the Arabs from thousands of years ago. The way that they interact with their woman. And yet, for me, there's no man born without a woman.
Mm.
So it must be woman. I love this one. It must be women's fault for letting men dominate them the way that they do. Because at the end of the day, you're born, yeah. Your mother has got control over you, and you don't do, shall I say, you live a better life because your mother's giving you guidance and such and that. So yeah, a mother's nature, a mother's nurture is nature, and therefore they're more tuned into human needs. Like men network and women gossip. Yeah, sorry, men brag, women network and gossip. And so, therefore, when you see the two divides like that, it's not surprising that more men are committing suicide because we've got less to attach us back to our basic essence, which is to procreate. Every species, why it's there, because it procreates. Everything that we do and ultimately heads towards that procreation. All right, we can make a conscious choice. I'm going to be celibate all my life, or I'm going to shag everything that moves. Fuck the hair on the barber's floor if you want. But the point is, we are genuinely put into that because of our genetics and the way that we've evolved. So yeah, women being nurturers and carers, and now what we're doing is we're allowing a narrative, again, it's a Hegelian dialectic, we're allowing a narrative to come and split us down the middle, and that's why we've got all these feminists. And great, because their argument it's absolutely brilliant, emancipation, freedom. But it becomes a point where, in the last 4 or 5 years, where it goes beyond women's rights, it goes beyond respect, it goes beyond nature and nurture to becoming dominant. I'm just as good as you. Listen, Chris, you've been through Marine training. I've been through Para Reg. I see all these women coming up. No fucking way. They're not even if she's 16 stone, built like the side of a brick shithouse. You're still going to have to make concessions because we don't menstruate, and that's what they don't talk about. A female pilot, sitting there flying her plane. Yeah, what if she's menstruating? It's a different story from a man. We don't have these social problems. I'm not saying women shouldn't fly planes, and some are absolute brilliant experts, and I hold my hand up for them for going through the training, volunteering, proving a point. But the point's been proved. Yes, women can do as good as men, but it's only exceptional women in exceptional circumstances. And yet every woman could do something that we can do, that we can't do. Give birth. And if that's true, it should be the feminine side that rules this world. But what we've seen with modern feminism is a fucking catfight. And I'm sorry,
Yeah, well,
it's unbelievable.
modern feminism is just a way to get the mother away from the child, because that's more trauma embedded in the child then, because the
That's right.
loss of
Yeah,
connection.
I can understand that. So, feminism, not wrong. I think it's the most wonderful thing that women have ever done, and got that emancipation and got equal rights. But please, ladies, please, just remember, you can't pee over a high wall, and I can't give birth, and that's as simple as that. There's no in between. I saw an absolute beautiful meme about 4 or 5 years ago, and there was two doors, and one that had written on it penis, and the other one had vagina, nothing else. I just put it up there, and that was it. Bang! You've got the answer, because that's a big picture thinker. That's somebody that's thinking above the arguments. There's somebody seeing the fundamental issues that this is causing, a division of the sexes. What do you want? Hegelian dialectic: divide and rule. So you're divided by race, by sex, by age, by all these different isms, and they're all labels, Chris. They're all labels handed down to us in order to keep us controlled. What that control is voluntary until it becomes a point where you see through it. And again, with this light that's coming in, people are waking up. The Great Awakening, they call it. You can't stop it. It's got to happen. And so therefore, I'm very confident about the future. But unfortunately, the pain that we're going to go through now, the pain of people waking up and realizing, imagine being 65 years old and everything that you believed in your life is now torn to shreds. Yeah. I believed in the Labour Party, and all of a sudden it doesn't exist anymore. All of a sudden it doesn't exist anymore. Yeah.
I've got
That's
my
my
own.
mouth going.
I got my own theory, Tam, on female pilots in the military.
Yeah.
Yeah, if picture the scenario. Oh, hang on.
Right. Where were we?
I was just saying that I've got my own theory about, you know, I I think female pilots in the military is a bad thing. If you take that scenario, was it the Enola Gay delivered? Was it the Tall Boy? Was the name of the nuke?
Yeah. Yeah. And Enola
Yeah.
Gay was the plane. Yeah.
So picture the scenario if that had been a female pilot and she's flying along and she decides, she's gonna put her lipstick on and and she nudges the fucking bomb bay doors with her elbow and she bloody nukes Wales. It is a fucking problem, Tam. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah, it's a bit of facetious and speculative argument, about lipstick and all that. I get your point. Yeah, South Park did an absolute beauty, Team America, and it was that, and the two of them flying along in their planes, bombing the shit out of some Middle Eastern country. I value your friendship. I do too. And they're bombing the shit out of everything. That was very revealing. Yeah, a little side anecdote, but yeah. Um, Look, this blurring of the identities has caused a lot of problems, especially for males. And unaware to a lot of women what's happened, that a lot of men have turned around and they said, no, we're not having this. And they want a traditional relationship. They don't want some woman with a high, what they call body count now. They don't want a woman who's got a fast car and a good job. They just want someone for nature and nurture. But unfortunately, you're getting hooked up with somebody that's tainted, sort of hooked up with propaganda, weaponized against males. And look at them all in our government. I'm absolutely shocked. There was a picture the other day there, and there was the front row of the British Parliament, and it was all middle-aged, postmenopausal women. And I thought to myself, okay, fair enough, nature, nurture, yeah, these people, these women, they're very, very good at getting organised and all that. But yeah, when you end up in a situation where it's all women, the bitching starts, the catfighting starts. Yeah, they can't resist it because men brag and women network and gossip. It's inherent in their nature. And so therefore, women are more likely to pass on information about things than men because men will steer it directly towards their own power, their own situation. I'm bragging, so therefore I'm using my narratives in order to back up what I identify with. Whereas women, they go in not some come that way, but a different direction generally. Whereas I say it's that inherent nature. And why is that? Because nurture. Passing on information to each other about child rearing, about bringing up families, about cooking and bringing stuff like that. Now, take all of that away, that's what a woman's essentially here for, whereas men are here for the other side of it. It's a very spurious argument, and you can get caught in the middle. But it takes two to tango. So we've got to understand that the world has changed for women, and we've got to accept that and accommodate that. That there are some absolutely brilliant women out there, as there are brilliant men. There's some absolutely terrible women out there, as there are absolute terrible men. I would trust women more than I would trust men in terms of running things. But when it comes to backstabbing and bitching and all the rest of it, I trust men more than women. So you've got that kind of bit in the middle where you've got to say, right, okay, you've got a logical argument here, and I understand it. You've got a logical argument here and understand it, but what's the way through the middle? And unfortunately, politics is not dealing with that. It's keeping us divided, and it's almost as if it's deliberately done But wait, again, you talk about a cabal. You talk about hiding under desks when you're 5 years old because you're frightened somebody's going to nuke you, or your teacher's telling you that. And where'd you get your teacher to get that information from? Oh, she got it from the newspapers. Where'd they get that from? Some hack journalist who decided, no, it was government deliberate propaganda. So again, you have to come back. The Hegelian dialectic. Yeah. Women are being encouraged and emancipated. The feminist argument, it works. But you get these examples where it goes too extreme. And of course, what happens is people pick up on that and say, there you are, there's your evidence. I told you. So kind of like you saying that women shouldn't be pilots and stuff like that. Well, women should be pilots. But should women be flying at certain times of the month? Well, there's another debate. I'm not a man, I can't say. But I've got four sisters and I see the change in them. And whether it's subtle or obvious, depending on the circumstances and the time or the cycle they're in, whether it's 1 month, 2 month, or 3 month cycle, I always see a difference in change in behavior. And it always makes me think, what would happen if this woman had a gun at this moment? Yeah, it really, and this is years and years and years ago. Of course, I realize now it's a fairly weak argument. But what if a woman in that kind of age had a gun? Well, okay, you want to put them into combat. So you get a whole platoon of women all menstruating at the same time and give them all a rifle and say, right, there you go, girls, off you go. I'm pretty sure there'd be enough aggression and they'd fight their way through things.
Yeah, I'm not sure about anything anymore, Tam, other than the fact that we've probably gone right into dodgy ground now. But yeah, it's funny when you see this. Like, I can guarantee you, because when you start, for anyone out there that's decoding scripture, so understanding the allegory behind it, there's no way you're ever going to find anywhere in scripture that says cover your woman head to toe and make her walk
No,
20 steps
no,
behind you.
no.
I don't think people in this country realize, if you look at an Islamic couple, the woman is walking behind the man. I think they just think the woman's a bit like slower than the bloke. But no, you see, in scripture, in allegory written by these magi, these magicians, these Persian intellectuals, and off the back of the Persian scripts came your New Testament and your Old Testament and all this kind of stuff. Your Greek, your later Greek stuff. Is a woman would be something like emotional intellect, and man would be like your spiritual intellect. So basically, woman represents emotion, man represents thought. And for anyone out there who's getting upset now, no, it doesn't mean man and a woman like you think man and a woman. It's nothing. It means more like the yin and the yang, the as
Yes,
above, the so below. It's just referred
yes,
to as woman and man. And saying that you should cover your woman would be akin to saying you need to get on top of your emotion, because if you let your emotion control you, you're living in the material body and you're leaving the upper room, the right hemisphere of the brain, and you're being dragged down into, beast mode, so to speak. And so when you see all that bullshit, it's just an abomination of God. God is love. And love isn't telling someone on a hot day to cover head to toe and that they have to go swimming to the swimming pool like that. That's nonsense. So there you
sure.
go.
Each to their own. If you're born into a society and a culture that does that, you never question it. You're okay, and this is how they got away with it. All religions got away with it for thousands of years. Again, the printing press, the invention of the printing press in the 13th century, and Gutenberg, um, you know, that opened up a whole different aspect where people could communicate and pass on messages. Now, fast forward to where we are. You've got that old traditional way, a culture, again, going back to the idea that, we need God. It's a paradox. The less we have God, the more we need him. And so, therefore, that was a way of social control and it was accepted by everybody. Now they're exposed to different cultures, certainly since the advent of television. And that's only been 30, 40 years, Chris. Really. It's only been 30 or 40 years. This whole information technology, this whole revolution has come. And we're in a situation where people don't know what's true anymore. I don't know what's true anymore. All I can do is go by what I believe. But I'm willing to accept that I can change these beliefs when evidence is given to me. What I don't like is that I talk to someone who's of a religious person. It doesn't matter what religion, but they're very, very religious. You're talking to a brick wall because they've already decided that you are inferior to them because they're closer to God because you're ungodly. And therefore, it's very easy to wind people up. You just slag off God, say, oh, see, these people, they're giving God a hard time. Oh, that's not right. Well, that was the whole underpinning of Northern Ireland. It was the same freaking God. And the Christians, and yet they're at each other. How? How does this happen? Because again, people with an agenda passing on the propaganda. And back to the printing press. That's how we got the Counter Reformation that started off the whole capitalism. It started off the modern Reformation into the Enlightenment and the science and the technology and all the narratives. Remember last time we talked about where does psychiatry come from? All of these things. And again, people are all put into their silos and this is what I believe, this is what I know. But when you're asked to talk about something outside it, very few people can do that. So the more you learn, the more you realize there is to learn. And there comes to a point where you have to accept that things have changed for you. The world is changing. You can go along with it or you can fight it. And unfortunately, where we are, and this is back to false flags, I think it's the people from before that held the power are the most dangerous because they're losing that power. And there are some of them, at least, are about to be exposed for what they really are. You see, Chris, we have three lives. We have a public life, we have a private life, and a secret life. You are a commando. So your public life is in uniform. There you are, green beret on, marching up and down the square. Everybody can see you. And amongst all your mates, it's not really different because you're wearing a uniform, but you're a commando, right? So that's your public life. You also have a private life that interpenetrates that. And that private life is, yeah, you're a commando and you've got mates and you're in the barracks and that's your life because you're serving. And that's your private life, your girlfriend or your wife or whatever. Okay, that's all fine. All that you do in and out of uniform. But the secret here is you have a secret life. Now, this is the person that's got their own secret desires. This is where your fantasies, the way you pick your nose, yeah, in private, or you scratch your ass, or your little body habits, the individuals, your secrets, your secret thoughts, your secret desires. Now, if you've got all of them and you're forced to deny them in public, what happens? You have to find an alternative out. And therefore, you become more furtive, more secretive, because you don't want people realizing that this is the essence inside you. So when you've got a priest standing there giving you a talk, and this fucker's been buggering fucking little boys for years, this is what blows me away. So our social life, our secret lives are the ones where that really, really matter and where we make the real decisions. So what we do in public and what we do, or what we do in private and then what we do in public is manifested from all that secrecy. And as far as I'm concerned, when you get into the public life, you have to put your secret life more on hold. You have to put it away and live more for the public life, live more for your audience, if you like. And so therefore, if that's the case, we end up with people, or we've ended up with people now whose secret lives have put them all in these positions of power. We look at what we're hearing about America and all the insider trading that's going on. I'm not naming names. We hear about what's it, the Russia collusion. We hear about the January 6th. Now this is all American politics, but at that point, yeah, how many secret lives were all conspiring together in order to have a personal agenda? And that comes back to the Hegelian dialectic: those that are in power, those that are protecting power. And so the overall picture, as the Earth moves and the sun moves through space, it's only going to get lighter. The photons are going to get more. There are going to be faster streams coming in. And so it's inevitable. And there's going to be a huge reconciliation in the next 15, 20 years. I don't know. I'm clutching at straws. It may take longer because people, you and me, how many years you've been around, Chris? 57, 58? You think of all the highways in your mind and all the habits you've got. Yeah. and all your idiosyncrasies in your secret life. You've got to dismantle all of them if they are evil, if they're nasty, if you're fooling around with people and things that you shouldn't be doing, if you're secreting away money, you're stabbing people in the back, you're nasty gossiping, all the range of all of these aspects of being a human. So as we move forward, as I say, I keep on coming back to it. I'm confident and optimistic that a lot of the issues that we've got now will go away and that we're going to have a much better future based on the divine feminine ruling the how shall I say, the organized male. That's probably it. I think that we should be a much more feminine society, driven in terms of our social society, but at the same time have that heavy hand of man to do the work, and recognize that we're biologically different. We have different roles, and a fulfilled life for a man is a different life for a fulfilled life for a woman. So yeah, that's where I'm coming from. I'm confident and I'm optimistic about a bright future coming. But as I said, we've got to go through a lot of pain before we get there. And that's what we're living now.
Yes. Yeah, I'm sort of like I really am into the energy vibration frequency. So I kind of think that everything's right, but I can understand why a lot of people don't. Um, Obviously, as a parent, you have concerns, but worry's never got anyone anywhere, has it? Really,
No,
it's
no.
sort of a worry. I think concern is good, but when it turns to worry, is just need. Worry is like concern without action, isn't it? You're not acting on your concern. You're just sat there
Yeah.
stagnating in fear. And I really do talk spiritual battle. Spiritual battle is such a crap name, but
It's an old-fashioned name. Enlightened is a better one.
yeah, you got to get
Aware is a better one.
you got to get yourself to a place where if someone's got a gun to your head and you know that you've got seconds to live, it don't matter. It literally,
Yeah.
and I've been in that situation before, or at least, you know, been in a
The
situation
worst
where
of
I
it is,
where I
worst of it, Chris,
completely,
you were holding a gun to your own head when you were addicted.
yeah.
You
I
know,
mean that that
a
that that that
metaphorical gun. You know.
yeah. No, that's true. I just remember the first time I thought I was going to die. It was terrifying. Um, but then you have like this breakthrough. You have this like sterile white breakthrough where your mouth goes all metallic, and then you just think, ah, fuck it. You can't get more scared than this. That's it. You can't get any lower, and then you come back up again. You're like, oh well. Well, I was anyway because I think being a former Marine was like I can't show fear, and fuck it, I can't be afraid. And then you sort of had a bit of a bounce back. Whereas now, I don't have to do all that sort of structuring and bolstering. It's, I get it. There is only one energy. You're always a part of it. Not in this existence, but you are the bigger picture manifesting itself in this body, so to speak. And I think that takes a lot of the sort of sting out of it. So I just say to anyone out there, just get into your meditation, folks. And that's another funny one because everyone thinks meditation is like sitting on a mountaintop going and it's not. Meditation is like once you get your pineal gland all working, which you do through lifestyle choices, then you can just shut your eyes and commune with the divine because you know that's it.
My meditation, my meditation, Chris, is when I'm running. You know
Yeah.
this. Yeah, when I'm running, and I can see you in my mind's eye years ago, and picking yourself up running, and then all that time you're running, this is where all the podcast came out. This is the whole idea. It manifested and germinated because you were in uptime. Yeah, is it they say 18 to 20 minutes that serotonin and dopamine kicks in, you get the runner's high, and off you go. Sometimes I used to love that feeling around about 30 minutes where you feel that you could just run forever at that speed, just ghosting along and cruising. Man, I would calculate how many seconds it would take for a light to get to the sun and back. I would ridiculous sums in my head that no hope is in doing, but I could calculate and all that because I'm running, I'm in a rhythm, I'm meditating, And this is where a lot of my PhD and stuff like that came out. The idea is to do all that because when I'm running, I'm thinking, and it's a meditation. And of course, when I come back, I've got the sense of achievement. Wow, I took these molecules. Yeah, this mind took these molecules and made it do this. And then I thank my body. Thank you, legs. You did well today. I don't know if you do that, but thank you. You did well today. And then I found out, just like your three lives, there's three phases. It's up here. I want to go for a run. The heart. I want to go for a run. Yes, yes. And the legs going, not today, pal. You ever felt that?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Do you think
Yeah, or
then?
something. Go on, sorry.
Well, do you think that? Do you think as part of the spiritual balance, then getting your public self, your private self and your spiritual self, you got to kind of,
Yeah, yeah.
you got to.
Get you're on the right track there. Get your private life and your secret life more in tune, and your public life will thrive because you will not have to worry about it. You will always be balanced and come across, yeah, as I wouldn't use the word sane, but somebody that's worth listening to. You got an opinion in the way you put it across. So the public life will come if you have got a balance between your private life and your secret life. But that takes work. And many people don't realize how obvious it is what's going on in their secret life is manifesting, especially in their private life around their friends and all that. As we say, oh, he's this or she's that, or they did this and they've done that and all that. That's just speculation on you because, you know, was it they say empathy? Yeah, you ever heard that word, Chris? Empathy. Oh, I've got lots of empathy. Fuck off. You can't have empathy. I am not you. I've never lived in your body. If you want to understand what it's like to be another man, walk 1,000 miles in his moccasins. It's a North American proverb. But it's the same thing. How can you actually do that? How can you if you can't because your life is individual. You might understand what it's like for somebody to be feeling pain, to be grieving, but you don't know the exact circumstances it's got, not you. So we call it empathy. It's not empathy. There's no such thing as empathy. There's only a basic understanding. So yeah, and yet we use this word empathy and we use it liberally. Oh yeah, I understand what you're going through. I understand all that. No, 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 no. Don't go down that route. Don't have empathy with people. Look at their actions and their thoughts and say, how does that affect, what is their private life saying? What is their secret life saying that I see that's manifest in public? And therein lies the clues. And that's why you start sitting there watching politicians. You listen to them for a few minutes and I know they're liars. Or I know that we're being flannelled. Yeah, I know that there's some kind of propaganda. And of course, as I'm watching this, there's millions and millions of people watching these things, and they're starting to go, And again, this is why I'm confident, Chris, because without people like you putting this platform out and lending voice to yourself and people like me, it doesn't matter. If one person wakes up as a result of this conversation, we, you and me, have done something positive on this earth. Even if we do nothing evermore, just one person, because that could be the person. You know what they say about people and opportunities denied. That could be the person that's the next Einstein, the next explorer, as you called it. And so, therefore, all these, the argument about all these people that are being hamstrung and not allowed to do things, it's down to choice. It basically comes down to choice. Are you ready to stand up and be encountered? If not, what else can you do not to stand up in front of the public, but you can do privately? And this is where the vast amount of work gets done. Private people, the secret lives who are genuinely good people, and they are being thwarted and stymied in everything they're trying to do by a top level of people, a cabal of people who are only interested in themselves and their own power gains. And we are nothing. What was it you said at the beginning? Slaves, trained into slavery, bred into slavery. Well, you're working for a wage, you're a slave. End of story. Where'd
Yes.
you go?
Oh, you've just
I'm back. Yeah, I'm
hang
back.
on. Yes. So sorry, Tam. You were saying it's good. It's good that we've got this platform to get out and reach people.
Yeah. Are you recording now?
Yeah, we're recording. Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, as I was saying, it's good to get out and have this platform that we're reaching people because at the end of the day, if you reach out and you have an affinity with one person and get over your message and make them think, and they can reframe. You don't know what they're doing in their life. You don't know what their job is and how many people they're in touch with. But, many grains of sand make a heap. And I want us to build mountains and mountains and mountains with people listening to, we might not be right. We might be absolutely fucking crazy. I don't care. Yeah. The more people that wake up is the less people operating in this darkness. And that's the way that we want to go. So what can we do in order to help people? And that's why I'm very grateful for the opportunity to work with someone like yourself. So yeah, thank you very much, Chris. Bless
No,
you.
pleasure's all mine, Dr. Tam. Thank you ever so much. And big hello to all our fellow paras and marines out there who might be watching us old sweats have a yap. So Tam, just bear with me so I can thank you properly while I just turn everything off. But thank you so much to your good self. We've got plenty more to chat about next time you come on the show. Friends, if I could ask you to like and subscribe, you're not going to hear many chats like this. I think it's very worthwhile. Can I say thank you to everyone that supports me on either Locals, Patreon, or YouTube memberships for $1.99 a month. You get all the you get loads of perks there, folks, including free VIP tickets to all my annual sort of events. And the last one, thank you to everyone that's chipped in a fiver for my Everest Summit, which will be in April. Climbing Mount Everest to shine a light for struggling veterans. But more importantly, I want to ask the question, why is nobody talking about unresolved childhood trauma in the military? Because it's what a lot of us joined up with, and we've got a massive mental health, addiction, homelessness and suicide problem, and nobody actually ever says, do you know what, maybe these guys were on a bit of a dodgy wicket from the start, and maybe more needs to be done to recognise this whilst they're in service to prepare them for when they leave. So there's a link below, folks, if you can support my mission. There we go. Tam, I'll see you for the next one. Much love, everyone.
Bless you, Chris. Take care. Bye.
Ciao, ciao.